Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswata Deve Gauravani Prachadane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. This is a presentation of the description of the universe according to the 5th canto of Bhagavatam, with a little bit of an explanation why it's like that. So, I already spoke about the Bhagavatam having 10 topics, of which the main topic is Asraya, or Krishna, who's the final cause of everything. And in the 3rd canto there was a discussion of Sarga and a little bit of Visarga, which is also described in the 4th canto of Bhagavatam. And then the other topic here we see is called Sthiti, or sometimes Sthana, which literally means situation or place. So this refers to the different places in which the living entities reside. Visarga is a discussion of the living entities created by Lord Brahma. And then we have the places where they reside, these different living entities. So that topic is taken up in the 5th canto. And it's given rise to a lot of discussion also. These are the topics here. And we find the 3rd one, Visarga, Sarga, Visarga, Sthana. So Sthana or Sthiti is the topic which is discussed in the 5th canto of the Bhagavatam, geography or sort of the universe. And the description, or the definition of Sthana, is the Lord's excellence in situating the living beings within the universe. So when the Lord creates the universe and the Brahma creates the bodies for the living entities, they need a place. In each living entity has got its particular place. So this is the arrangement of the Supreme Lord, and this is what we call Sthana. Okay, so therefore we get this geography of the whole universe, and particularly Bhumandala, what is called Bhumandala. So this concept is a little bit, well, not a little bit, drastically different from our modern scientific concept of what is Earth, what are the planets, and what is the universe. Quite different. Because of that, even devotees are puzzled by this description, and we can't quite figure out what it means. So first we'll deal with Bhumandala. So what is Bhumandala? It extends as far as the sun shines, and within which the moon along with other luminaries are seen. So it's a broad expanse of area now, and the sun goes up to the edge and then it doesn't go beyond that. And what is this purpose of describing all of this universe and the details? So there's one verse here in the 5th canto. The mind fixed on the Lord's gross form made of matter can absorb itself in the Supreme Brahman, Bhagavan, of Vasudeva, the light of the soul who is beyond matter. Therefore you should explain the structure of the universe. So, not everyone, but some people, if they meditate upon the structure of this universe, can become absorbed in Krishna. So that's the whole purpose. As I said, we have these different topics like Sthana and Sarga and Visarga, and in the middle is the Asraya, Krishna. So the whole point is somehow to understand Krishna. Unfortunately, many people, they get a little bit caught up in these descriptions and they can't figure out anything, so they don't think of Krishna at all. The whole idea is to think of Krishna as a result of hearing these descriptions of the universe. So basically, the description we find is like a big disc, so to speak. And there's the outer portion of the disc. It's all black. The sun does not go there because there's a big wall. And in the center we got the part that's lit up, the yellow and the orange part. So that's we can say that half of the universe, the outer half, is all black. The other part is the Bhumandala section, we call it, where there are living entities in some portion. Even then, where the living entities live is only that small portion in the middle. The orange portion also is unlivable. It's golden land. It's all gold. And we have in the center, very, 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 very center, we have Jambudvip, the central island. And in the central portion of it, we get Mount Meru, which is like the portion of a lotus. If you've seen the lotus, the middle portion is like this. So there's a mountain in the center of the Bhumandala like that, oddly shaped, upside down mountain kind of. It goes bigger at the top and smaller at the bottom. And it's surrounded by these different varshas, or countries, so to speak. Here we see Varsha there. This is not an exact representation, it's more of a poetical description of the central Dvipa with Bharat there in the bottom petal. So, Mount Meru is quite famous, and actually the description of the world according to the Bhagavatam is also in other Puranas, and it's also in Buddhism, and even in Jain religion. They have the same conception of the universe with a Mount Meru in the middle. So it's not just some odd thing that comes out of the Bhagavatam. It's common principle. Some people may associate with the Meru with the Himalayas, this huge mountain in the middle, which is actually bigger than our whole Earth planet in the present time. So, but of course it's much bigger than that, and it's a completely different shape as well. Some people think it's Kailash, Mount Kailash, which is a sacred mountain of Shiva up in the Himalayas also. So anyway, we have around Mount Meru the different dvipas, etc. This is a general description. There's more things on it than this, but like that, which is also the symbol of the Knights Templar, by the way. In Indonesia, we also have a Sumeru. So it seems to be quite a common figure. I think in Africa there's one also. Yeah, there's a Sumeru in Tanzania also. So that this Sumeru mountain is quite well known around the world, and different cultures have named a mountain Sumeru. It also pops up in all sorts of other, we say, mythologies or traditions. This is one little conception. I think this is a drawing by some British person of a turtle at the bottom, the elephants, and then the Bhumandala on top of that. In the middle is Mount Meru, and then a Sesha at the bottom of everything. And there we have another one here on the other side. I don't know who's that prediction. Maybe that's a Norse from Norway or something. A depiction of the earth. Of course, we have in Buddhism, we have that Mount Meru in the middle, and it's even the same shape, going upwards like this, and big at the top and small at the bottom. So here's one sutra that talks about that. At the time Ananda saw the splendor and majesty of Amitayus resembling Mount Sumeru, which rises above the whole world, there was no place which was not illuminated by the light emanating from the glory of his body. So it's considered to be a very sacred place, Mount Meru. Here again we find a depiction of that central island with the Mount Meru in the middle, surrounded by this is actually the central area, surrounded by that. Here's another Buddhist depiction again of somehow the different layers. Of course, it's probably a little bit abstract, but we get again a central mountain in the middle, like that. So that's the basic shape. Of course, we don't have layers like that at the bottom, but we have the Mount Meru in the middle. This is a Buddhist depiction again, like this. Another Buddhist depiction of the whole thing. Yeah. And even the temple is considered to be like Mount Meru. We have many, we have this central spire, so that's considered to be like Mount Meru, center of the universe. which is nice because in that we have Supreme Lord. So Supreme Lord is the center of the universe. It's also Mount Meru, so symbolizes the Lord. And we do have temples like, I think, Angkor Wat. This, they directly say, is a representation of the universe with Mount Meru in the middle. And then we have the first layer, like Jambudvip. Then we have another wall and another wall and another wall like this. So this is like the different dvipas surrounding the central island like that. And then the middle is Mount Meru. So the whole temple complex is a representation of the universe. Okay, so this is a more detailed description of that central portion of the universe with Mount Meru in the middle, represented by the yellow spot, and around there's a square, and this is called Ilavrita Varsha. This is where there's a form of Shiva that lives here, and on the two sides we have two Varshas. We have Ketumala Varsha and Bhadrasva Varsha. And then at the bottom we have three Varshas, Hari Varsha, Kimpurusha Varsha, and Bharata. That's our place is Bharata. And above that we get the Himalayas. And on top we got three layers, Ramyaka, Hiranmaya, and Kuru at the very top. So this is the central island in the middle of the universe, middle vertically and middle horizontally also. And between each Varsha there are mountains that you cannot go over. So you can't go from Bharat to Kimpurusha to Hari Varsha. Humans cannot do that. These other Varshas are considered to be heavenly, and we're not allowed to go there unless we get another body. So it's impossible to go to these other places. What to speak of go to Mount Meru. So this is the central portion. These are just the dimensions. So the Bhagavatam actually spends a lot of time going into all the dimensions. So many yojanas this way, so many yojanas this way. If you add it up, it's very symmetrical because it's a matter of 100,000 yojanas diameter-wise. And you add up all the dimensions of the mountains in each Varsha, you know how wide it is, and then the central portion, etc. It goes up, comes up to 100,000 yojanas up and 100,000 yojanas across. So it's a big circle, 100,000 yojanas. And I think a yojana is 8 miles or something. So it's 800,000 yojanas, this whole area, central area. And around the Mount Meru, here's Mount Meru in the middle, in Ilavrita Varsha. Then we have some strange mountains. And on top of each mountain is a huge tree. So we got the Mandara mountain with a mango tree on top, Suparsa mountain with a Kadamba on top, a Kumuda mountain with a banyan on top, and Meru Mandara with a Jambu on top of it. A huge tree on each of these mountain ranges surrounding the central mountain. And then after that, outside we get 2 more layers of mountains on the outside. So this is just a plan of that whole thing like this. So there we have the mountain, the middle mountain, Mount Meru, and then we got those little mountains here on the side with the trees on top. So this also gives the dimensions. The Bhagavatam also exactly describes the whole dimension of Mount Meru. And the top is like 32,000 yojanas. Yeah? And it intersects at the earth with 16,000 yojanas, half. And then it goes into the earth also. So, and here's the earth in comparison. The earth is like 7,900 miles in diameter. And the diameter of Mount Meru at the bottom is 16,000 yojanas. So a very, very huge structure, much bigger than the whole earth. That one Mount Meru in the middle, but to speak of the whole of the Jambudvip. Yeah? So it's very, very different from our conception of what everything is. So here's another conception. Mount Meru in the middle, then we got those islands, or the mountains, and then we got Bharat Varsha and the Kimpurusha Varsha, etc. on these other sections here. So that's the center, like that. There's another model of it. There's another model. And there you see the 4 big mountains with the tree on top. There's a banyan tree and a mango tree and a kadamba tree on the sides there. On top of that Mount Meru, this big mountain here, see in the top there's a little design up there? So actually, somebody asked the question, what's on top of Mount Meru? Well, it's a flat surface, and then there's heavenly abodes up there. So Brahma has an abode in the middle, and then we got different devatas that have their cities up there. So Kuber is the god of wealth. He has a city up there in the north, and Shiva is there. Got his abode. Indra is there in the east. Agni is there, fire deity. Yama, god of death, is in the west. No, south, sorry. Nritti is another devata. Varuna, in charge of the west, that's water deity, and Vayu in charge of the air. So we have these deities. They had kind of their own little cities, big cities actually, on top of Mount Meru. Like that. And there's also the Ganga flows, drops down from the heavenly planets and lands on top of Mount Meru, and then it spreads out in 4 directions, and then it spreads its showers like that, and gradually that flows down, and then we get the result here, the Ganga on Bharatvarsha. So each of these central areas of Jambudvip has a deity also. So on Bharatvarsha, we get Narada Muni here, and we are worshipping Narnarayan up in the Himalayas. Kimbavarsha Varsha, that has Hanuman and Ramchandra. That was mentioned in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, that Hanuman is residing there and worshipping Rama. In Harivarsha we have Prahlad worshipping Narasimha. In Bhadrasva we have Hayagriva, the horse avatar, and Bhadrasva, who's a sage, worships him. In Ketumala we have Kamadev, this is Cupid, god of love, and Lakshmi is worshipping. In Ramyakavarsha we have Vaivasvata Manu. This is where he lives. He's the Manu who's reigning at the present moment. And he worships Matsya, which is natural because he was previously Satyavrata, and Satyavrata was saved on Matsya when there was a big flood after the Chakshusha Manvantara. And then he became the next Manu. So he worships Matsya in Ramyaka Varsha. In Hiranyamaya Varsha we have Kurma, the turtle avatar, worshipped by Aryama. And in Kuru Varsha we have Varaha, worshipped by Bhumi, earth deity. So that's the central Varsha, as we see here, the thing going up in the middle. Then there's the big ocean, the saltwater ocean. But it's to get the proper proportions is very difficult because they're very big proportions. Each ocean and island is twice as big as the previous one in terms of diameter, I guess, of the island or whatever like that. So we have Jambudvip in the middle, we have a saltwater ocean, then we get another island outside that, like a big donut, that's called Plakshadweep, and we have the sun deity there. Then we get a sugarcane ocean, which is twice as wide. And then we get Salmali Dvipa, that's a type of tree. Salmali is a tree, it's called a cotton tree, and the moon deity is in charge of that. Then we get a liquor ocean, which is twice as wide as that. I guess Australians would like that. They don't have to go to the liquor store anymore. Just go down to the water and get some. And outside that we have Kusadweep. Kusa is the grass. And that Kusa grows there. And Agni is in charge of that. And that's twice as big as the previous island. Like that, So these are the central ones only. And we go out further, which is, we see then we get a Gi ocean there, that little around the red, or the red is actually what the Kusadweep there. And then we get another ocean of Gi, and we get Kraunchadvipa with Varuna in charge. Then we get a milk ocean, the white portion, and then we get another island, again, Sakadweep, with Vayu, air deity in charge. We get a yogurt ocean, which is actually twice as big as that, but I can't even draw that because it'll go off the screen. And then we get Pushkara Dvipa, and Brahma is in charge of that Dvipa. And that is divided into two parts because right in the middle of it, that circle is a mountain range, the Manasatara mountain range. And the sun drives his chariot over that mountain range. And then we have a freshwater ocean, a huge freshwater ocean in a big ring like that. So each ocean is twice as big as the last ocean, so these oceans are huge when they get that far out. So after that freshwater, which is there, we get the golden land, this ring. The white ring is the freshwater ocean, and then we get the golden land. Nothing lives there. Then we get the local mountain range, a huge, fat mountain, very high, so high that it's higher than the sun. So nothing can get beyond that, no light can get beyond that. So the blue section is all darkness outside that. So the total is, what, 9 million, what is it, 9,093,000, how does that work? 493,400,000 yojanas wide. So that's a diameter of the whole thing. But we see that most of it isn't even inhabited. It's all, that blue area is all darkness. Then we get a huge mountain, which is the next big section. Then we get the golden land where nobody lives. Then we get this, the freshwater ocean. Then in that little center area, we get these areas here with also oceans inside them. So the central island of Jambudvipa is very, very small compared to the whole universe, but yet it's so much bigger than our Earth planet. Okay, this is just somebody's representation. You can't see it here. Anyway, this is another way of seeing the various areas here. Okay, yeah. So, taking a side view, we have little Mount Meru in the middle, big but little, and we got the sun that rotates above that on that one Manasatara mountain range going around, and then way out there halfway through we get this huge mountain range that blocks up the sun because it's higher than the sun. Everything beyond that is darkness. And this is just half the universe. Right? And vertically we can see that it's like this. The sun actually is smack in the center where it orbits. And a little below that we get the Bhumandala with the Mount Meru in the middle and everything like that. And below that is a space, then we get the Garbhodak Ocean on the bottom and we get the upper planets at the top. So it's quite symmetrically laid out. And the total is 500 million yojanas across inside the universe, not speaking of the shells like that. So in that layer, we see that layer here, I got here, that's the called the Bhumandala crust, and with the Mount Meru on it. Now in that crust, then we get planetary systems also. So we get Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, and Patala, all stuck one after the other like caves or something like the underground places within the Bhumandala. And the total is 70,000 yojanas, the thickness, and each of these is, a little narrow segment of that. And at the bottom we got Patala underneath it. And then we got the Garbhodak Ocean at the bottom. And you add all these dimensions up, and I think it comes to the right amount here. So we get half of the universe here, up to the sun. Okay, like that. And then we get above that, we get the upper planetary systems above the sun. So these are dimensions from the Bhumandala, so to speak. So we got Svarga, we get Dhruvaloka, we got Mahalaloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, and Satyaloka. And then a little space at the top. And the total comes to 250. Up from the sun upwards, 250. And of course there's 100 between the sun and the Bhumandala. And similarly we get on the bottom here, we'll make it up here, and we get 250 on the bottom also. So the total is 500 million yojanas vertically and across also. So a perfect sphere, we can say. Now just to take the, between the sun and the Bhumandala, we get 100,000 yojanas, and then within that we get Rahu, what is called the Antariksha. This is the, I would say, the Bhuvar Loka, where all these subtle beings like ghosts reside, and that's 100 yojanas above the earth. And the total is 100,000 with the sun up there. Okay? So, then there's a description of the height above the Bhumandala of the different planets, which are considered to be Svarga sphere. So below here, so we got Bhumandala, which is our planet. Then we get Bhuvar Loka, Antariksha, and Rahu. Then we get the Svarga sphere, starting with the sun. And then we get moon, the nakshatras. This is where all the stars are. The one of the purple star there, 300,000 yojanas. The heart is Venus, love planet. The green one is Mercury, another 200,000. Then Mars, the red one, another 200,000. Jupiter, another 200,000 above that, and then Saturn, the blue one, 200,000 above that. And then way up top, 1,100,000 is the seven sages. That's the Little Dipper, I think, isn't it? Little Dipper is seven sages. Yeah. And then we have Dhruva Loka at 1,300,000. And the total is 3,900,000 yojanas. And that's only up to Dhruva, which is way down here, you see. Then we get the other planetary systems above that. So in other words, all these planets are in this area just above the sun and below Dhruva Loka. That's their vertical height above the Bhumandala. That's all. It's not talking about their orbits, which may be very big. It's just above Bhumandala. So there we see the moon is more higher than the sun, above the Bhumandala. But actually the sun is way out here going around Bhumandala, very far away, whereas the moon has a different orbit closer. The sun is further away. But above the Bhumandala it is 16,000 yojana, and the moon is 100,000 yojanas, vertically speaking. Yeah, so here's the sun on the Manasatar mountain range, very, very far away. And we're somewhere just under that Mount Meru, so we're very far away from the sun, and the moon is somewhere in the middle here, closer. So in that sense, the moon is closer, but above Bhumandala, the moon is higher up. Okay, so that's a basic description of where they are. Now, around the world, people have been interested in the planets for a long time, and they have in India also. And they have they spent a lot of time looking at the sky, everybody, in ancient cultures, much more than we do. Probably everyone here, they look at the sky, they don't know what's up there. But only a few astronomers, are looking at the sky. But in ancient times, for some reason, they were very fascinated with the sky, and they were looking at it all the time. All these ancient cultures. So here we have Stonehenge in England. They actually drug these stones from hundreds of miles away, and they were a so-called primitive society, and they made this structure which is now only partially there. But piecing it together, they found out, I think in 1950 something, they put it all on their computer to figure out why it was arranged in a certain way and whatever. And then they figured out that it was to predict eclipses. By measuring the measurements of the sun through a certain stone, going through a certain stone at a certain time of the year, etc., they could figure out dates when the eclipses would occur, etc. So in other words, they're like a big calendar. So this was done very long ago in England by some people. We don't even know who they were, what their culture was, but they were very interested in the sky and doing something with the planets. Of course, we have Egypt also. We also don't know what these structures are for, but it took them a lot of endeavor to build them. In fact, we can't even build one today. If you commission someone to build a pyramid, he won't do it because it's too expensive. And with modern equipment, even just to cut up all those stones and transport them and then pile them up in this way, it's much, much too expensive for anyone to do, so no one would do it. But somehow they did it, not just one, but we got 3 big pyramids and many smaller ones. And nobody knows actually what they're for. They say they're for the king's tomb, but when they opened up the big pyramid, no one could open it up. They couldn't find where the entrance was. When they finally got in, there was nothing there. There was no mummy there at all. It was an empty room. But nobody had opened it, ever. The entrance was secret until, I don't know how many years ago, 100 years ago or something. They got in, nothing was there. So it wasn't a tomb for a king, obviously. And they don't know what it's for. But they have figured out that they're aligned according to the stars in the sky. Yeah? And the dimensions are also very particular, like you multiply the dimension at the base and you multiply it by a certain figure and it becomes the circumference of the earth, etc. So, mathematically, somehow all of the dimensions of the pyramids had some significance in terms of the dimensions of the earth and probably the distance from the sun or the moon or whatever. We don't know actually what it's for, but they're astrologically aligned. And we have many in Iraq, which is, they have the ziggurats. I think it's an ancient civilization there. So they would use these to look at the sky. And we have huge pyramids in, which is Mexico or whatever, in Central America. We have these different cultures that arose at different times. Completely different cultures, not related at all to the cultures in Europe or in the Middle East or whatever. And they also built these huge structures, like this. And what is this? It's an observatory. They were again looking at the sky. In fact, they have a calendar, a very famous calendar that ended in, what was the year? 2012, 9 or something? December or something, 2012 was it? The end of the earth or something, they thought, because that's the end of their calendar, their cycle or whatever like that. So they were very interested in the calculation of time, cycles of time, etc. Very, very fascinated with it. And to do that, they have to know astronomy. Here's one in Peru, another culture, completely different from those other cultures. Nobody even knows what this culture is, so it's just there. There's no records of, of what it was, but they were calculating again movements of the sun. So each month the sun will go through a different notch in the sky from this area here. Machu Picchu again, Inca much later, different civilization, again astrologically aligned. Here was Angkor Wat in another completely different culture in Cambodia. This is also aligned according to the rising of Venus on a certain day of the year. The whole structure is aligned in that direction. Here's an observatory in China. They were also looking at the sky in China. And this, of course, is India. This is a very late addition, of course. These are astronomical instruments, so to speak, on a big scale, to view the planets, so they could measure the movements of the planets and record them, and based on that they could make accurate formulas for predicting future movements of the planets. So in India, of course, the tradition is very ancient. We have Jyotish as part of the Vedas, and they were very interested in time, and they used it to choose auspicious times to do things, like to build a temple. You need an auspicious time, so therefore you have to calculate in advance, what's the best time. So therefore you have to know where the stars are, where the moon is, where the sun is, etc. at each time. So you need astrological calculations and observations in order to make formulas to predict future movement of the planets. Yeah. So here we have the pole star. Everything is moving around the pole star, so to speak. So that's kind of like the Mount Meru thing. Everything is revolving around Mount Meru in the same way. So constellations are groups of stars, and they're more or less fixed. Of course, everything, the whole sky moves every night. Keeps moving around like that. But then the planets are moving within that a little bit. So to mark the movements of planets, they name the different constellations and the zodiac signs. So we get 12 zodiac signs, and then we locate the planets within there, and they start moving gradually. The moon moves 1 month through one sign, it goes, let's see, within 1 month, it goes all the way around actually. And the sun goes 1 month, it goes one sign, and all the other planets go much slower. And Saturn takes 27 years to go around the whole zodiac once. So they all move at different speeds, and they're irregular in their speeds also. So they had to make a lot of observations in order to figure out where each planet would be in the zodiac at a certain time. So in this way we get all sorts of names of the stars, etc., and the constellations and the zodiac signs, whatever. There's also a description of the Shishumar chakra there with all the different nakshatras or groups of stars on it. It's supposed to look like a dolphin of some sort with a tail and the pole star on the tail. Right. Anyway, so we end up with the nakshatras, which are described in the Bhagavatam also, and they form like a circle, and within those the stars move. The planets move within these particular star configurations. Okay. This is just another way of looking at it from the Earth point of view. Okay, and if we take an out of the Earth thing from outside our own Earth planet, look at our whole galaxy, then we can locate all the different nakshatras somewhere in there. Like that. Okay. So the whole sky is moving day and night because we say the Earth moves around like that, so it's moving, but within that we get the planets moving within the signs and nakshatras. And therefore we need mathematics to predict that. So why were they so interested? Everybody, I said, all these different cultures were looking at the sky all the time. One, of course, is simply weather and seasons. Seasons obviously are important because their crops depend on the seasons, so you have to know when spring is starting or when summer is starting, etc. So there are, we can say, measurements of the sun in terms of where it is in the sky to predict the different seasons. So based on that, the farmers can plan their crops, when they're going to plant them, when they're going to harvest them, etc. So that's one good reason. Another, of course, is weather. They had certain planets would indicate bad weather when they're in certain places, and some would have indicate good weather. And of course, the moon also is responsible to some degree for the weather and for the tides also. And then we have a more complicated thing, that is inauspicious and auspicious times according to positions of planets and the moon. So this was highly developed in India, and therefore you choose a particular time as auspicious for doing a certain thing, like a marriage or an installation of a temple or whatever, any activity, travel or whatever. You choose an auspicious time, so you need to know what the tithi is and where the moon is and what nakshatra and where the planets are, etc. for that. And the other is astrology, in which you can predict karma, events in the future for a particular person or even a country. So kings always want to know what's going to happen, in the country. Is it good to go to war at this time, or is it good to have peace or whatever? So then they have to go to astrology, and then they get a prediction for that. So these are some of the reasons for understanding about the planets and why they built astronomical observatories, etc. And that's the reason, again, why we do have a whole description of the planets moving in the sky in the Bhagavatam, etc. Now, we get a problem in this whole description, as I said, because when we look at it from the modern point of view, this doesn't seem proper, because now we have another conception of the Earth as being a spherical globe floating in space. And then the planets are out there revolving around the sun, and the Earth is also revolving around the sun. And this Vedic conception is quite different. Everything is flat. And this was the conception in Europe also. In other cultures, ancient cultures, flat. It was a flat surface. The problem is that what happens at the edge? So the ancient sailors were always worried that maybe they're going to come to the edge of the universe and they're going to fall off the edge like that. So then of course the water would all flow up also, so that's not a very good explanation to have, you know, a flat Earth with the water out there and then all the water draining off. That doesn't seem possible. Now, okay, anyway, you can't go very far anyway. You can't even get out of Varsha and the salt ocean, what to speak of, go to the other lokas and then finally get the local mountain range, and you can't get past that also. So there's no possibility of ever floating off the edge of the earth and falling into the Garbhodak Ocean or anything like that. Of course, we're going to say, what's supporting the whole Bhumandala, this huge structure like this? What supports it? So there is, of course, Anantashesha, and the turtle is there, and Anantashesha and the elephants are there described in the Bhagavatam also. But this looks a little mythological, you know, you have this huge elephant supporting the the Bhumandala, and you got a big turtle under there and a huge snake under there. What's all this, you know? So it looks like mythology, and it's very puzzling for us. Then the other thing is, it's everything is revolving around Mount Meru, and of course the Earth is quite close to the center. So everything is going like that. But in the modern concept, everything in our solar system, everything is going around the sun according to modern things. So it's contrary again. So, you know, it's very peculiar. And some people think this is useless, you know, this model that we have here in the Bhagavatam, useless. At the same time, we have to accept Bhagavatam as absolute truth. So then we get this contradiction. Well, how we correlate Shastra and absolute nature Shastra with modern observation, which contradicts it. And then we get a big problem. We get all confused because of that. Okay, anyway, though we're always thinking, okay, everything revolves around the sun or whatever, it doesn't really make any difference from our point of view. We can make a model where Earth is in the center and it's static and everything else is turning, because everything is relative anyway. But it's very complicated to calculate orbits this way if we put Earth in the center and everything else is calculated. If we put the sun in the center and then we just start making our calculations using mathematical forces, we can have a much easier way of doing it. So it's easier to calculate if we take the sun in the center. If we take the Earth in the center, the orbits of each planet around the Earth are going to be not circular, or they're going to be quite irregular and quite oval, and therefore the speeds of the planets and their orbit is going to be very difficult to calculate in terms of putting Earth in the center. But it can be done. So either way, you could calculate and come up with the correct predictions of where planets are going to be, if we say heliocentric or geocentric. Either way, doesn't really matter. It's all relative anyway. Okay, anyway, we do have other problems because they sent up spaceships and whatever, and Sputniks and whatever, and then they take pictures of the Earth and it's all roundish like this. And then we got a flat Earth in the Bhagavatam, more or less flat Earth. So why? It doesn't seem to be proper, from modern observation. So there's a contradiction there also. The Buddhists actually, in the modern Buddhists, they actually say, okay, that's fine, we'll accept the modern scientific version, forget about the old version where they also have the flat Earth with Mount Meru in the middle. Okay, this is only mythological, they'll say. So they've made that adjustment and they just accept the modern version like that. Another problem, of course, is rising and setting of the sun and the planets, because they go up like this, but according to this model, they're going around like this, horizontally, and they're not rising up at all. So they're just kind of going around in the sky like this. So how is that possible? So various devotees have tried to solve this problem. Satabuddha in his book says, taking it as having several layers of meaning. One is that it represents India, another the Earth, another is the solar system. He gets that far. So this is from his book actually. So we have Jambudvipa as representing India with Mount Meru in the center, in Central Asia, and then India at the bottom there like that. So we have a area with Mount Meru somewhere, probably maybe Kailash or something, or like that. And then the various parts of Jambudvipa around that, with various mountain ranges there as well. It's a very approximate thing, but makes some sense also. So it's India and Central Asia, that area, representing that. Some people have gone so far as to take the different oceans. We have the salt ocean, we have the milk ocean, we have the liquor ocean, we have the ghee ocean, the sugarcane ocean, the yogurt ocean, and the sweetwater ocean. So they try to identify them with different bodies of water, like the Indian Ocean, the Caspian Sea, whatever, the Persian Gulf, the Oxus River, the Aral Sea, and something in Tibet up there, which is maybe speculative, this is based on their speculation. Some people have said, okay, Mount Meru, let's make it the North Pole, Meru, which is also there in, I think probably the astronomical text. Sometimes they take that theoretical point, the north, below the pole star, as Mount Meru on Earth, which is everything revolving around that. So you put Mount Meru as the North Pole, and then you just spread out the whole Earth, flatten the globe down like this, and we'll get different areas of land around it, like that, with Mount Meru in the middle. So we get the Varshas around that, approximately. Now here's a old ancient European map with the same sort of flat type thing, with the different land bodies around the middle one, like that. Oh, that's the This is the Norse version of the world. So we get a mountain with a big tree in the middle, and their version also. So similar. Okay, and here we have the modern version. So the Mount Meru is kind of up like that, and then we have the continents around it. Okay, and we have Santa Claus up there also. So it's not such a bad place after all. On top of Mount Meru, we got Santa Claus there. With the polar bears. Okay, so this is another version of that flat Earth thing with the Mount Meru in the middle. Okay. So, in other words, that kind of represents something like this, where we get different masses of land with the North Pole on top and the different continents and stuff like that. Very, not quite accurate at all, but that's one theory, that this is what it represents. Of course, then we have the problem with all these different oceans. What are they? Some people say, okay, they're just representing, they're mythological, or they're just other bodies of water, etc. Sariputta goes so far as to give a metaphorical definition as being orbits of the planets in relation to the Earth. In other words, just as the sun is in the center and the planets go around in certain orbits like this. If you take the Earth in the center and have the planets go around that way, it's not circular anymore. This is what we get. Like a spirograph that has an elliptical orbit, kind of, with an elliptical orbit, it's not in the center, then you get all sorts of funny designs like that, look like flowers for each planet in relation to the Earth. The orbit of each planet, like Saturn or Jupiter, will make one of these things. So it has an inner and an outer boundary to it, each one like that. So in other words, these can be like islands or dvipas, and then there's an ocean, then there's another island, then there's another ocean, then there's another island. So that was one theory of Sariputta. And then also the orbits actually matched up very nicely with the dimensions of the different dvipas in terms of yojanas and converting to miles, etc. So the distances, the size of these orbits also matched up nicely. So, and that's one way of looking at it. So in other words, Bhumandala represents the orbits of the planets in relation to the Earth, the inner and their outer orbit, like this. Which is theoretical, but interesting. So there's, for instance, Venus's orbit. Another thing is, they look like little flowers. And we have the whole idea of the lotus and the flower, like Bhumandala. The central is Jambudvipa, is like a flower also, like this. So we get these flower things. Here's Mars. Here's Mercury. Like that. And we get the flower image coming up in the Bhagavatam and other literatures, like that. So in other words, he's equated the solar system kind of with the Bhumandala and with the different dvipas, etc., like that. That's Sariputta's version. So I mentioned there was on that Pushkara Dvipa, there was a mountain range dividing up that island, and it goes around like that. And the sun has its orbit above that mountain range, very, very far away from the Earth. And then there's an explanation of how that creates the different seasons. According to how high the sun goes or low, it goes within a certain range, like that. Yeah. Okay. The zodiac also moves. If we take the Earth as stationary, then we see the whole zodiac moves. If you look at the sky at night, it moves. The whole sky moves all night long. All the stars and the planets are moving together. And the planets are moving in the opposite direction, actually. Okay, so anyway, the planets are in the sky at these different rates. Bhagavatam does not give the orbits, actually, except for the sun. It gives its orbit way out, halfway, way out in the universe. So there, it doesn't give the orbits of the other planets. But we have distances above. So we can say the distance above may coincide with the different planets, which all don't exactly go flat around in their orbits. They're slightly tilted upwards from the horizontal. So the elevation of the, we can say the orbit, or how it's tipped, that we can say is like the elevation of the planet here. And the moon has a definite orbit like that. So here's the moon. If we take the sun as the horizontal, then the moon has quite a big orbit. So then above the horizontal, is quite elevated in its highest point. We also have something called the shifting pole star. The pole star is not always the same one, and it seems to shift. Goes off and they have to get a new pole star. And that's because of the whole wobble of what we call the wobble of the Earth now. It wobbles back and forth a little bit like this, so that the North Pole's not always there. It wobbles a little bit this way or that way. So we get a shifting pole star. So actually the pole star rotates gradually over thousands and thousands of years in a big circle. So perhaps that's like the orbit. We have this Mount Meru, it's like a circular thing up like that. Perhaps it's like this. It's creating the sort of pole star rotating. It's like the Mount Meru. We don't know, like that. So possibly there's a correlation there. So day and night, sometimes we can equate that maybe with the sun going around Mount Meru, and then when it's behind it, then we get a night because we can't see the sun. But of course, the other way of doing it is saying it's because it goes around the Earth, the sun goes around the Earth, therefore there's a shadow like that from the North Pole downwards. So the rising and setting of the sun cannot be really described in terms of a flat Bhumandala and Jambudvipa, and then the flat orbits that don't rotate, they're not that extreme, they're just kind of going around in a circle. And therefore the Earth, or the curved Earth or spherical Earth, is a good explanation. So some devotees have said, therefore, actually, on the Bhumandala we have a globe like this, like a golf ball sitting up above the Bhumandala, and that's the Earth planet. But that's nowhere described like that in the Bhagavatam. Though, in one place in the Bhagavatam, the Earth is called, or the Bhumandala is called Bhugola, which means a sphere also. Like that. And Surya Siddhanta also seems to describe a spherical Earth. In one description, spherical Earth is situated in the sky in the middle of the universe, so they call it Bhugola there also. This, of course, is astronomical. So astronomical literature sometimes refer to a spherical Earth. And then Aryabhata, I mentioned before also, he declared the Earth is spherical again, and he gave a diameter also. And this way, he also had a theory. So some of the astronomers in ancient India were also thinking of a spherical Earth. Yeah. Now, Srimad Bhagavatam just gives this description of that. Anybody won't go into it like this. Okay. Interestingly enough, we talk about upper planetary systems, but even in modern astronomy or whatever you call it, or geography, they have different layers of the atmosphere also. And it comes out, I think, 7 layers of the atmosphere. Maybe there's a correlation there. And you got 7 layers of the Earth also below, like the 7 lower planetary systems. Yeah? Now, if we take a bit, we had a vision of the solar system as being like Bhumandala with the oceans, etc., like that. We can take it on a bigger scale and think of galaxies, because galaxies are also this circular shape, and they're also flattish. So they could be compared to the whole galaxy as well. Or we can take the whole universe also. All the galaxies together, which is billions of galaxies together, make up the universe according to modern science. And what is the shape of the universe? It's like a big toroid like this, like a big donut. Huh? And then it has this central thing coming out that looks like Mount Meru. This is the shape of it. And again, we have a little Mount Meru shape in the middle. That's the whole universe according to modern science, the shape of the universe. So maybe that's some sort of analogy with Mount Meru also. So anyway, we can't quite explain how it's like that, because we have a limited vision now. If we had higher vision as a yogi or a sage or a spiritual vision, from very spiritual vision, then we could probably make sense of what the Bhagavatam is saying. Now we can only speculate about it. The central, don't call it the spinal cord, but we can say the pranic path is called the Meru Nadi also, or Sushumna Nadi, and this going in the center of the system with the chakras on it like this in yoga. Yeah? And we can even locate the different lokas in terms of your different chakras on the body. Yeah? At least the upper ones like this. Yeah? And we can associate the different layers of the subtle body with the koshas. We have the koshas of the body, subtle layer, the gross layer, then the next level, the different levels of the subtle body like that. Some people associate that with the dvipas, or with the dhatus also. The dhatus are the different elements in the body. So we get semen, marrow, bone, fat, muscle, blood, plasma. So some people speculate at these being like the dvipas. Like that. Okay. In any case, as I said at the beginning, we're trying to relate everything to Krishna as the cause. So we saw in the description, everything was accurately calculated to make a very symmetrical universe and a symmetrical Bhumandala. So many millions of yojanas this way, it was high, and everything was laid out very nicely. So, in other words, it had a symmetrical plan behind it. The whole universe and all of the planetary systems within it, and there the different living entities are living. So, in other words, there is a cause of the whole universe and its structure, which is very symmetrical. And that final cause is ultimately Krishna. So that much we should at least understand from this whole description. How it has worked out in terms of modern science or whatever, we can't quite say, but nevertheless, the idea is that everything is worked out very symmetrically according to the plan of the Lord for the jivas. Okay, that's it. Fine. Any question there?
Yeah, you said that, at a certain point you said that in the Bhagavatam, it said that Jambudvip is flat.
Kind of flat. At least it's got these varshas and mountains and then Mount Meru in the middle. Not exactly flat because it's got this huge thing in the middle, like the middle of a lotus. And then we got the mountain ranges around it. They go up and down, but more or less flattish. And then we have an ocean around that, saltwater ocean.
As far as I remember, every time I read something about Jambudvip in Kirtanto, it says it is described like it's a globe, and when the sun sets in one place, the sun rises in another place. And
yeah, because it's going around like this.
But if it was flat, it would never be like that, isn't it? Because the sun
Yeah, well, the sun is described as being on that Manasatara mountain range, way out there, on a chariot. It's going around like this. He drives around on that chariot.
So is there any specific mention about being flat? I've never seen that.
It's only a supposition because we have all these oceans out there. And we have, of course, we could have a circular one. It gets bigger and bigger. The dimensions make it bigger and bigger and bigger. And each continent and or each dweepa and ocean is twice as big as the next one. And they're going out like this.
But could it be another dimension?
Well, obviously, it's not exactly flat or whatever. We don't know what it is, but it doesn't correspond to our modern idea of it. Of course, our modern idea is probably not the perfect idea also, because we're limited to 3 dimensions and we're speculating everything must fit into our conception. So somewhere in between. It's neither flat nor spherical, it's something else.
Because when it talks about the Jambudvip, also it says that the ocean of salt is exactly the same size as Jambudvip. So it seems like Jambudvip is the Earth.
Yeah, but then actually Varsha is our part of the Earth. And we can't go to the other parts because they're heavenly planets.
I was reading from Dhanavir Goswami, the Purana cosmology book, and when it talks about Bharatvarsha, it talks about, it describes very clearly India. It says the north is Himalayas and the south is Kanyakumari.
Yeah, that's why I said the one version is like that, with the central Persian was somewhere in Central Asia, and then Varsha was the India part, and the upper parts were these other Varshas like that. So it's a central area with India on the bottom and the other portions on top. So in other words, a very particular area there. So, but then how to describe all the other liquor ocean that I don't know.
I'm just thinking of a Jambudvip. How is it possible, for example, if it's exactly the same size, it says in the Bhagavatam, it measures exactly the same as Jambudvip, the ocean, the salt ocean.
Yeah. Well, the whole thing is very much bigger than the whole Earth planet as we know it. Everything is very, very huge. That Mount Meru is, huge in comparison. The Earth is like this, and this Mount Meru is like this. The Jambudvip is like this compared to the Earth. It's very, very huge. And then the ocean is much bigger again. So it's the dimensions are quite different from everything we know on Earth now.
Because the Earth, not the whole Earth is surrounded by water, isn't it? There are some parts that there is not covered by water, so it will not be Jambudvip, the Earth.
Yeah, so these are things that we can't quite figure out as far as the description is there, because they have a circular ocean, and we don't see a circular ocean like that, with a circular thing in the middle also. So how does it correspond? So it's difficult for us to explain.
There was some contention about putting this state planetarium in Mayapur. They were trying to figure out how to do it. Have they made any progress in that?
I don't know. You can ask them. I would doubt that they've got a solution to it. At least a solution that would convince modern scientists. I don't think they have something like that. We can always speculate, but I don't know. But one thing is that, like the Angkor Wat is said to be a representation of the universe, with Mount Meru in the middle. Yeah? Oh, scientific, we can say, okay, what does that mean or whatever, but people go there, they look at it, and they say, okay, fine, and they just they don't question it. This is the Buddhist conception of the universe with Mount Meru in the middle, and here's the different dweepas here and whatever, and this is the universe. So they just accept it as part of the religious culture or whatever like that. So we can take it like that also. We got the same thing in Bhagavatam with Mount Meru in the middle and the oceans, etc. Get a little more details there also. Part of the culture, but you just make the whole temple as being like Mount Meru also, and with the different canals around it as being representing the dweepas or whatever. But how you can explain it in terms of modern science is very difficult. But as I said, even modern science doesn't know what it is either, because 94% of it is all black matter. They don't know what it is. So, you know, we don't know either. We don't know what time is also, even in modern science, they don't know what time is even. They can't really define it. Yeah. So, with a space even, we don't quite know. So previous I mentioned that if you were to observe the world from your right brain, you may see something quite different. You wouldn't be interested in looking at 3 dimensions anymore. You may see something like what we see in the Bhagavatam if you were to perceive with your right brain, or if you were go a little bit higher than the right brain and get up into your subtle body and do some astral traveling like a yogi, then you may also see something quite different. Yeah? In other words, you may go into other worlds and other dimensions, and then when you get into the other dimension, you can look back at the earth and you'll see it's quite different from what we think it is.
There was a Vedic cosmology video a few years ago. Was that a big one, Raj?
Perhaps. I didn't see it.
And there was this one aspect of the video was that we need to have the karma to also understand how the whole universe works and how everything fits in, how the different dimensions work. And maybe it's just a comment for a minute right now. It's like, because we see things in this world from a 3-dimensional view, but like I said in previous classes, there's many different dimensions. It's 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th different dimensions.
Yeah.
So the question is, are we qualified to understand this? In this age, maybe it was.
Well, it's possible to some degree. Maybe we can appreciate it. We may not be able to understand it fully, at least we can appreciate that there are other levels of reality, and we can look at the world differently. Maybe that far we could get. You know, scientifically speaking, if scientists understand that perception is a little bit relative and trying to analyze things like they now do, if they get beyond that, then you can say that at least we can understand that there are other versions of the world that we don't know about.
You were describing the 4 mountains that go around Jambudvip that are right close against Jambudvip, that are all the ones that have trees on.
The Mount Meru, yeah.
Yeah. So the one tree, there's a huge mango tree. There's freaking huge mangoes falling down,
Yeah.
creating rivers of mango juice.
Yeah.
The other one was the banyan tree,
Yeah.
which we know of.
Yeah.
Then the kadamba tree, which we had outside here, that's a kadamba tree. Because the 4th one was a jambu tree, so I was just wondering, is there any jambu trees on this planet?
Oh yeah. The jumbo fruit is there. The black berry on it. Yeah, that's a jumbo tree.
Is in India?
They taste a little weird, but.
That's particularly for India. The jumbu.
Yeah. You could probably grow them here. They're not hard to grow, I don't think.
Then we have the whole lot here.
Yeah. And you have all the trees here on the farm.
Hare Krishna. This was Santa Buddha Prabhu's conception, where he correlates the devas in line with the orbits of the planets. You mentioned that that's just a theory. It's not. Was that his common, or was that his predominant perception?
He said it's one way. He said there could be many levels. One was a level where you just take Mount Meru is somewhere up in Central Asia, and you take this as like a map of, the Central Dvipa is just a map of India and Central Asia. So that's a very localized version of, Jambudvip. The other is to take it as maybe the North Pole and then the whole Earth and flatten the whole thing out, and then we get something that way. Another was the whole solar system. So he said there could be various, the analogy can be used, or the the model can be used for various levels. And then I took it out that and make it a galaxy, and even make it the whole universe. Was modern science knows that you could take it on different levels. So that was his idea. You could take different meanings out of it. Which is, we would say, well, that's interpreting, but then again, he also gave examples where they actually do like that in certain stories, you know. It means two things at once. You know, the same story is used on two different levels.
So it's not conclusive. There's work necessary, though.
Yeah.
I was wondering, it's so vast and inconceivable to see explaining one universe, and then these other universes where he's come out, there's more here, so would they have the same similar description like this Mount Meru and things like that?
What's that?
The description of Jambudvip and Mount Meru and the whole lower planetary system
Yeah.
and upper planetary system, it's just describing this one universe.
Yeah. It's, we can say, a model for the normal universe, but then there will be bigger universes, smaller universes, etc., which will be slightly different. So this is like the general model for a universe. Okay.
What is the difference between universe and solar system?
Well, in modern science, the universe is everything, and then within the universe we get galaxies, which are huge collections like this of planets and stars and whatever like that. And then within that, then we'll get one star, which is a sun, and it has planets going around it. So that's the solar system. That's our solar system. We got a sun, we got planets going around it. Then we get other stars in the sky. So like the Milky Way, we're in the Milky Way, so to speak, and we're one little star there among other stars, and some of them have planets around them, so there are other solar systems there. So in other words, the galaxy is made up of many stars, some of which have solar systems with planets going around them, and we're one of them.
All that will be in one universe, even all the solar systems?
Well, from the modern point of view,
But not from Vedic.
no, he would just get everything within one. Yeah. And that's one universe, but then we have many universes. That's a little bit different. In the modern scientific, there's only one universe, and everything is inside that, but we have many universes, and then within that, then we have this system, as I described, with the Mount Meru in the middle, and the stars and the planets going on around.
Last question. So Maharaj, what did we do to end up in this universe?
What's that?
What did we do? What did the soul do to end up in this prison house?
Well, we have ignorance of Supreme Lord, and we identify with the material body, and we want enjoyment, so we end up here. That's the reason. Ignorance.
Thank you.
Okay. Hare Krishna.